Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be revisiting Upfront today because of a question, actually I should say a question I've received from quite a few of my friends now, both those who know that I love this game and others who've seen some of the videos I've put up. And the question is, do I have a favourite Upfront scenario? And if the answer is yes, which one is it? Now, this is actually quite a hard question to answer because I think personally, and I wouldn't be surprised if many in the Upfront community agreed with me, that the scenarios you get with the base game and its expansions are superb. I find them really well thought out, very well balanced. They're very beautiful at crafting these very believable situations and really quite challenging situations. So really, I suppose it depends upon one's taste of these things. A complicating factor, of course, is between Upfront's really well-developed do your own or build your own scenario system and the freedom with which one can tweak existing scenarios. It's actually quite hard to pick on a favourite. Now, I mostly play this game for the amazing narratives it spins. I know I've said this ad nauseum in my other videos, and I really am in it for the ones that give you a great story, whether that's an individual mission or part of a larger campaign. And I also personally have a fondness for scenarios that are a little bit on the asymmetric side, and by that I mean where both sides are not only unequal, but also they have very different victory goals. So while I can't honestly say that I have a favourite scenario, I'd say that one that is definitely in my top 10 is the evacuation scenario as given in Banzai, the expansion. The reason I like it is because it ticks all the boxes that I've just briefly outlined. And it also is a great way of matching up real life battles with their anniversaries. I have a habit of doing that. If I'm reflecting on a particular campaign in my reading, or if I notice an anniversary has come up, I sometimes like to mark the occasion by setting up an upfront mission around it. Now, my purpose in doing that, of course, is not to be in any way flippant about what these poor fellows went through, but I find it just aids the reflection, if you will. So, of course, if we're thinking 80 years back, it is, of course, the end of January 1943. And I'm rereading Louis Allen's excellent book on the Burma campaign, his book, The Longest War. And in January into February 1943, the British were at the height of their ill-advised and, it must be said, rather poorly executed campaign to advance into the Arakan, back into Burma, an attempt to seize the Mayu Peninsula with the goal of Akyab airfield at its southern tip. Now, of course, the campaign proved a complete disaster, but it just so happens that the dates we occupy now, towards the end of January, mark the point where the British were engaged in really intense fighting around the village of Donbaik, which the Japanese had managed to fortify. And it was a grueling campaign. Really, in terms of the numbers engaged, the Commonwealth should have been able to crack the Japanese defences. And it is a tribute to the outnumbered Japanese defenders that they managed to defend this area so effectively. And so I've chosen to set my replay of the evacuation scenario against that backdrop. So what does the evacuation scenario involve? You have the basic 13-man Japanese squad, which I'll be playing, and you have the basic 10-man British infantry squad, which will be controlled by I'll call it the AI. I'm using the solitaire play rules, the rather simple but effective ones as given in the Banzai expansion. And the objective of the British is to really extricate the remains of a squad. So they have all 10 men, but you'll notice that 3 randomly selected ones begin the game wounded. Now, these poor fellows were randomly selected at the outset of the scenario. Unlike regular wounded men, they don't need to draw the random number check at the beginning of a new deck to see whether their wound overcomes them or not. It's assumed that their wounds are light enough for them to survive throughout the scenario, unless they're killed or driven away by other means. So the task of the British is to prevent the Japanese from getting at least 4 men to relative range 5 in terrain that will give them cover against incoming fire. That, of course, is the Japanese objective for winning, other than breaking the British squad if they do that first. Alternatively, the British can win if they get at least 2 of their wounded men to a position that's at relative range 0 from all the Japanese groups. Now, that's going to be fairly hard because the Japanese are quite a mobile enemy. So we'll see how it goes. Now, to keep things fairly historical, because the area around Dombeek, we're talking about the very southern end of the Mayu Peninsula here, was actually fairly cleared of jungle. It was mostly dominated by the Chaung-type rivers and streams, and in the area around the villages, it was cultivated land to a small degree. Of course, the region around the Japanese defences would almost remind some older soldiers of the sorts of things that had gone on in the First World War: trenches, a sort of no man's land between the two armies' positions. The Japanese, of course, had built a network of their excellent bunkers, which proved a real pain for the British forces. So what I postulate happening here in this scenario is that a British squad, which is part of a failed daytime assault, is waiting for the cover of darkness. Yes, I'm inflicting another night scenario on myself. And they're going to attempt to withdraw now that they feel a bit more secure. And they've been stuck all day in the no man's land area waiting for their opportunity to get back to their own lines. The Japanese, flush with victory after having beaten off yet another Commonwealth attack, their blood is up, and sensing that the movement to their front reflects British remnants attempting to get away, are determined to, at the very least, hassle them all the way back to their lines. So that's why this small party has been put together to go after them. So it's a night action, as I say. But because of the nature of the terrain, which I mentioned earlier, we're not dealing with jungle here in the strict sense. So I am going to suspend the jungle rules for this scenario. It's going to be normal terrain. I'm going to treat the buildings cards as natural features of some sort, be it a small ridge or something like that, that just happens to grant a very high terrain bonus. But aside from the nighttime penalties for shooting, there'll be none of the jungle imposed penalties. So I've set up the game. The way that the evacuation scenario starts off is that both sides draw their opening hands and deploy their terrain as usual. And then following that, the Commonwealth player would draw for whichever of their men are wounded, and then play proceeds normally, starting with the Commonwealth player. So let's see how we get on. Now, because of the vulnerability of the Commonwealth Group A, these are the really low morale men, and it's their bad luck in a way that Private Cleary, who's got a morale level of only 1, so he's pretty jittery anyway, has been wounded. They've given that group of men the gully in the hope that they'll avoid being hit by fire for as long as possible. And the objective for the Commonwealth player, unsurprisingly, is to get their men out of there as rapidly and efficiently as possible. So their strongest group, which also happens to be their fire group, is going to remain behind this turn. And priority for movement is going to be given to groups A and C. Now, turning over their cards, because until this moment I've no idea what's in their hand as per the solitaire rules, they've got a movement card already, so they're going to start doing some retrograde movement to get their men away from there. And they are going to start with the most vulnerable group. Now, this is a bit counterintuitive because I have to remember they're retreating, so that doesn't go up to 3. That goes to a 1. Yes, sorry, I forgot to mention the defending group in evacuation starts at relative range 2. Otherwise, it would be a bit tough on the pursuing player. So they're going retrograde. Let's turn a few more of their cards over. Oh, they're in luck. They have another movement card. Now, it's a shame, a bit of a waste of a flank card, but again, the Commonwealth players' priority is to get their men out of there. So being sensible about this, especially given the state they're in and that it's at night, their Group C is going to begin withdrawing as well. Let's just turn over their last cards. We've got a rally, we've got a wire. They are in luck. They have another movement card. So this very fleet of foot Commonwealth unit is pulling back in surprisingly rapid order, given that they've got wounded men with them. I'm quite impressed. And that is it for the Commonwealth player's turn. Now, what are my options? Could be better. In this scenario, the pillbox and indeed the minefield cards count as cower cards, so I will be... That's a shame. I love flank cards, but in the context of a pursuit, I don't really want to start flanking just yet. My best bet really is, if I can't get to grips with the British, is to just press forward to get at least 4 of my men to relative range 5 and get them into that defensible terrain, because that would represent, in the context of this scenario, getting to a position where I can cut them off and prevent them from reaching their own lines, and really just wait until dawn when they're vulnerable again. But what to do? This may seem a weird thing to do. I gave my Group A, my morale vulnerable group, the benefit of a gully as well, just initial protection. I would very much like to keep pressure on his Group A. So although it may seem a bit counterintuitive and possibly foolish, I'm going to get my Group A moving first to keep on their tails. When I say I have to get my group to 4 of my men to relative range chit 5, just to be absolutely clear, they have to get to that range chit. So the Commonwealth could block me just by dawdling if they were feeling confident about it. I won't make any other moves, mainly because I can't and I've got no firing cards. I don't really want to try any spotting because it would be pointless and it would just burn through the deck. However, because the Japanese only performed a movement action this turn, I'm going to use their special ability to discard a cower card. And I will draw my replacements. So, moving back to the Commonwealth. Oh dear. Hold on. The Commonwealth are being aided by a giant cat. Moving back to the Commonwealth, I'm just going to turn over their cards now. They have 2 concealed cards and a stream card. That's not overly helpful. However, they could play some discards on me. In fact, that's what they're going to do. My Japanese Group A is going to blunder into a Chaung, which is most unhelpful. And if I thought things couldn't get that much worse, my formidable Group C, which is in defensible terrain in brush, is going to find a wire card dumped on it. Actually, no, it won't. It'll be my Group B. No, sorry, cat's attacking again, just to add a third party to this game. It's my Group B that's going to suffer from the wire card, because that's the group with the light machine gun. It makes far more sense. Let's say some British mortars in their positions have realised what's happening and are trying to give them some covering fire. So while the Commonwealth boys haven't done anything directly, Fate and some support from their lines are stepping in to help. That's not good. What can I do about this? Not a huge amount, unfortunately. I was really hoping to get the winning team of Fuchida and Fujita into some woods, but that's all. We'll call it light shrubbery or light jungle, but hey. Okay, my lack of movement cards is a serious problem. I'm going to take a chance that I won't be needing the rally card or that anytime soon and discard them and hope that I get something a little bit better. Well, oh dear. What has the Commonwealth got in the meantime? Ah, they don't have great choices either. No, they have a whole load of cards they can't use, including some cower cards. So what they're going to do... It's a tough choice. They could play the cower cards on some of their moving groups just to make them a bit less conspicuous. But then they've got 2 cower cards in their hand, so it may be worth a discard and draw anyway. We haven't spotted them, so they're not in a huge amount of danger. And the range isn't that favourable for nighttime shooting. So I think on balance, the Commonwealth will just discard those and hope for better terrain on their next turn. From my perspective, the Commonwealth really need not worry in the slightest. With great regret, I'm going to discard those 2 because they're simply not helpful to me right now. And I just hope the Divine Emperor favours me with something a bit more useful. Well. Back to the Commonwealth. Ah, turning over their cards, I see their patience is rewarded. Right. Their vulnerable Group A is going to emerge from the gully into the cover of some trees. Their other groups will just carry on moving for now. Again, they're waiting for better terrain. Now, what shall I do? This is most frustrating. It's not really worth taking a shot at them from the stream. I've got a very weak firing card, but in a nighttime action, that's pointless. So I'm actually going to discard these 2 and use the sniper. And the sniper is going to target their Group B. So he is aiming at the poor wounded Corporal Barnard. Okay. And his random number check result is a 3. Oh, curses. Very nearly pinned Barnard, but not quite. So I'll leave that there as a reminder. The British have been lucky tonight. But at least I have a movement card, so I can get rid of that pesky wire card next turn. Back to the Commonwealth. They have themselves yet another cower card. The jury's a bit out as to whether they would want to use it as such. I think it might be worth their main group trying to pop off my sniper, so they're going to give it a go, and they fail. Looks like everyone's shooting rather badly tonight. And I think they do need to clear their hand a bit. They're going to take a risk this time. They're going to use that cower card to let their Group C go to ground. Hopefully that's not such a risky thing for them to do under cover of darkness. Finally, back to me. This is a total waste, but I'm going to use the movement card to get rid of that. Normally, because I'd only played a movement card, I would want to maybe use the Japanese ability to discard more cards, but as I have an empty slot in my hand and I'm in no hurry to burn through the deck, I'll just draw the next card and patience is rewarded. The Emperor clearly heard me that time. So what's the Commonwealth going to do? They're going to opt for some discards. That is way too big for them to use anytime soon, if at all, because really they don't want to be getting that close to me in this scenario. But they're also going to discard that on my command and heavy weapons group in the hope of doing some damage. They've learned. So they're going to target Private Kobayashi. Okay. And they have pinned him. Well, their sniper's clearly of a higher quality than mine. This lot look like they mean business. Finally, a challenge. I think, looking at what's in my hand and given the state of things, I'm going to leave Group A by the stream for now. It's a bit of a vulnerable position, but I don't think they're in any immediate danger. I think I will get my Group C moving because I need to start chasing things up on the right. But what to do in the centre? I'm a bit torn. I've got the rally card, but I'm also really tempted to get rid of the British sniper. I think it's worth getting rid of the sniper. I'm going to try it, and I fail. Okay. Both sides' snipers are having a bit of a field day tonight. Never mind, it was worth a try. We'll rally Kobayashi next turn, and we have another movement card. Super. So what do the British have? They have got a ridiculously high firing card and a concealment card. Now, they already have quite a few concealment cards, so I don't think this is going to help them very much. They are a bit hobbled because they have a few borderline cards. Well, there's one firing card that they could try and throw in my direction, but the presence of the wounded men and the effect that has on their firepower is a limiting factor. So I think instead of doing that, they're going to take a risk. They're going to favour getting away, so they'll keep all the concealment cards, and they'll discard the two firing cards. It is, after all, only deck 1 of 3, so a lot can still happen, and they may well see those cards again. So moving back to the Japanese... Sorry, I'm putting a hand out to ward off the cat. He's been terribly persistent tonight. Right, choices. Well, it's no contest in the centre. I'm going to rally Private Kobayashi. The question is, do I want to use the movement card to get my Group A across the stream, or do I want them to hold position for now? I don't really want this group to be left too far behind, so I think... If that was a forward card, I would have given it to Group A for the guarantee of getting them across the stream, but as it's not, I'll hold it so that Group B can benefit from it. Ooh, okay. Would be nice to get close enough to use that one, but I don't think I'm going to be that lucky. So back to the Commonwealth. Well, they're being quite fleet of foot tonight. Their Group A is not sitting still. They have a movement card, so they're going to keep them moving. Now their Group C is at relative range 2 to that group. And they have that temptingly decent firing card, but unfortunately Private Tresham, because he is wounded, just weakens them enough. So they're going to hold on to that, because it is a good firing card for use at a distance, even if it's just to ineffectually ward me off. And of course the British can afford to burn through the deck and waste it in a way that I can't. So yes, having got Group A moving, they're going to hang on to the rest of their hand and they're just going to draw replacement. Back to me. Right, let's get this show on the road. Group B is going to start forward. And I'm going to give Group C the benefit of the woods. Because if they're getting close enough, I want them to be able to start shooting if it comes to it. And let's see what we get. Oh, more movement cards and a ford. Brilliant. The Emperor smiles on us tonight. The Commonwealth have turned over their card, and it's a slightly less effective firing card than the one they had before, so it's no great help to them. I think this turn might be a discard turn for the Commonwealth. They're going to take a risk because they really need to put more distance between us and them. So they're going to ditch their newest firing card, which is not all that great, and one of the concealed cards because they haven't really needed them. And if they get the right combination of cards, they might not need them at all. So they'll just discard those, draw their replacements. And it's back to me. Now I have something of an embarrassment of riches here. So Group A is going to begin fording that stream. While Group C is going to set something of a speed record by advancing out of those trees. Who knows, if I get close enough, I might even get a chance to throw in a Banzai charge. You never know. Not in range to use that yet, but soon. Soon, we hope. Ooh, okay. Bit unnecessary and overpowered, but hey. Over to the Commonwealth. Ah, okay. They have a smoke card, which is completely useless here. They also have a woods card. Again, now they have a bit of a choice, I think. They could either play it on their Group B, who've been moving in the open for a while, or they could smack it down on Group A. I still don't think there's much chance of firing at this range. I mean, I know the Japanese Group C is closing in and they're at relative range 3 now, but they're moving, and that's going to be 2 halvings of fire because of the night as well as the movement. So the high morale British group doesn't feel like it's in very great danger. So the sensible thing is probably to give their vulnerable Group A the benefit of the tree line and hope that Group B's luck holds for now. And they will draw a card. And oh, actually, might even be worth them doing some shooting, because at relative range 3, their Group C suddenly has enough firepower to try using that card. So they are going to attempt an observation. And they have seen us. Okay. Right. Having had my group C spotted by their group C, they are going to open fire with this. So it's halved to 1. We're moving, which brings it up to 2, but we're still in the trees, which makes it a 0. Now, luckily for me, because I'm not taking any chances, I'm going to make it -3. So here we go. Private Tagami's fine. Private Sakai's all right. Private Karata's fine. Private Yumani's good. And Private Fusano's good. And that gets removed from the game because it was used as a random number check. So yes, a defiant burst of fire from the British flank, but nothing that bothers any of my soldiers. And with that, the Commonwealth would draw and top up their hand. Okay, that fire was ineffective, but it was a warning nonetheless. So I'm going to do a bit like the British. I'm going to look after my most vulnerable group. So the fellows who are crossing the stream have managed to get into the long grass on the other side. My other 2 groups are still moving, but my options are somewhat limited, so I'm just going to draw and see what I get. All right. What do the British have? And that can go away. Unfortunately for me, the British have the very last things I wanted them to have. Having turns to give us fire, their group C is going to pull back even further. And their group B is going to occupy a very strong natural position to give the other 2 groups cover as before. Good move on their part. Question is, what am I going to do about this? In my current state, sadly, not a great deal. I will ditch that rather weak rally card and that ridiculously overpowered firing card, and hope I get something useful in exchange. Oh, I shan't complain about terrain. We are moving and fairly visible, so yes, that's fine with me. So, over to the British. Well, their luck seems to be continuing. Their Group C very gratefully wriggles into some equally strong defensive terrain. We're going to have a very hard time pushing them out of that. And they will do nothing else this turn, so I'll just draw for them. My turn's quite easy and straightforward, I think. I'm naturally going to give my LMG and command group the benefit of the hill, and my flanking group out at sea can have the brush. And let's see what I get. Ah, yes, I can certainly live with that. Oh, good. I'm glad this very defensible terrain cards thing cuts both ways. I was beginning to worry. The Commonwealth / British are going to have a quiet turn this time, because turning over their cards, there's nothing they can actually do that's very useful, but they have some decent discards. The smoke, of course, is useless to them in a night scenario. But those deeply unhelpful mortars or support weapons or whatever in the British lines have decided to start chucking things at me again. Now, it's a little bit of a toss-up because, yes, my LMG is in that group, but they're further back, so it's harder for them to spot me. Much more sensible if they start targeting the nearer Japanese group, because there's a reasonable amount of firepower there, and at relative range 3 I could do a bit of damage. Assuming I ever get sensible firing cards, that is. Yes, much to my disappointment, I'm going to expend that movement card just getting rid of the wire. Or shifting position very slightly to confuse the enemy mortars, what have you. Ah, that may be useful. Meanwhile, taking advantage of my distraction and happy at the fact that groups A and C have made it back to range chit 0, British Group B is going to fall back. And that is all they're going to do. Now, as for me, not sure if it's worth, depending on the target, I'm not sure if it's worth me using this card. We'll have to see. There's not a lot else I can do, but all of the Commonwealth forces are in really good terrain. So I'm going to take a risk. I'll get rid of the... No, I'll hold on to the terrain card. I'll get rid of the rally card and the fire card. Hope I don't regret this. See what I get. Not brilliant. Over to my Commonwealth friends. Well, they just grin smugly and enter a slightly less defensible but still pretty formidable patch of terrain. And in the interests of burning through the deck, do they want to shoot at me ineffectively? No, they probably don't. So they will just draw a card. They plan to make every shot count rather than randomly fire into the night. Now, what can I do with this lot? It's not looking brilliant. Fuchida and Fujita don't have a hope of hitting anything. At this range, I could try a shot, but it's hardly worth it. Never mind, my Group B will attempt to spot their Group A, and we do not manage it. As for my Group C, I think they're not going to bother, because they're in such good defensive terrain, that's not even going to bother them. So yes, that was a bit of a wasted turn for me. The Commonwealth, turning over their cards, have revealed a fairly strong fire card. The only thing is, by fleeing so effectively, they've put a fair bit of distance between them and me too. So I think they are going to reluctantly do some discards. That's too powerful for them. That's too weak to achieve anything. So both of those can go. Over to me. Same problem as last time, really, so probably going to regret this. Buildings can go, fire card can go. Okay, that really doesn't help, but we'll see how it goes. What are the Commonwealth going to get up to? Looking at where they are, the Commonwealth could take the risk of continuing to run, because they're very close, painfully close to getting 2 of their wounded men to relative range 0, although my Group C is hanging on to them doggedly. But of course the problem is if they pull too far back too early in the game, they run the risk of me simply dashing up and getting 4 men into relative range 5. Range chit 5, I should say, in good terrain. So they might have to sit tight for a while just to discourage me. And they're actually in very good terrain as it is over there. So maybe it suits their purposes to stay. But in any case, they have some weak terrain, relatively speaking, to what they've already got. And they have another sniper card. So I think this is going to be a discard turn for the Commonwealth. And once again, they're going to target my command and long-range capability. So they are aiming at Private Fujiyama. And the sniper's result is a pin. Oh dear. That sniper of theirs is really on his game tonight. And the question is, what am I going to do about this? Well, looking at my continuously non-brilliant options, I don't know, efficiency demands that I probably just ignore the sniper and press forward, but my blood is up. I'm going to try and kill that annoying sniper. And I fail. That was a bad move. So I've wasted another turn, unfortunately, but at least I have a rally card if things get much worse. Over to the Brits. There's nothing in particular they want to do at the moment. They're going to hold their positions and do a couple of discards just to keep things cycling through the deck. And also hopefully build up some firing cards so they can can contest that ground when I start to pull up to it. They've so far not had any further movement cards, so that may well be a blessing for me. As for my turn, just going to rally Private Fujiyama. And okay. The British have got a cower card and a movement card. Now the cower card they're definitely not going to need, so it's going to be another discard turn for them, I think. They've got a choice between what to discard. They'll definitely get rid of that because they can't use it for anything useful. They have 2 rally cards, so they may as well lose that one. Actually, no, if they get rid of their other one, that depends whether they want to vindictively deprive me of the use of a concealed card. May be more useful to get rid of that one. So there we go. Look at the smug whatnots. They're just sitting there catching a breather in that nice safe spot, waiting for me to come on, having to advance towards them while they can blaze away at me and hopefully stop me reaching my objective. They could always reoccupy the ground in front of them if they're feeling confident, or, because of the distance, the option of doing a runner is still open to them. Me in the meantime still don't have very good options. So I'm going to discard those 2. draw those. And I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Just to give you a quick situation recap, we are halfway through the first deck of the game, so there's plenty of time for things to happen. The British do have options, as I say. They could carry on running. A clever trick, if they can pull it off, would be to use their Group B to try and hold all my groups back, while Groups A and C get their wounded men to safety. Another way they could win is simply hang on, if they can, for all three decks, trying to prevent me from getting to range chit 5. But that could be a tough fight for them because my squad is in much better shape than theirs is. So if it came to close quarters, that might not end well. My objective, yes, I plan on simply barreling forward, cautiously, of course. I don't want to throw men away. And just get to range chit 5, because I think that would be a good way to win. But we'll see what happens, because as I say, we're only a short way into the game and a lot could happen. So I will carry on in the subsequent video. And in the meantime, as ever, it only remains for me to say a big thank you to all of you who are watching this. To my regulars, a massive hello and a greeting as always. Really good to have you guys along for the ride. Thanks for sticking with me, and as always, your company is appreciated. To anyone who's new to my channel, if this is the first of my videos, you're more than welcome. If it's Upfront that's brought you here, you've probably noticed I've done a couple of other videos for Upfront. I hope you enjoy those too, and if it's wargaming in general, please do have a meander around the channel. I hope you see something you like, but in any case, do enjoy yourself. And as always, to all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.